I want you to close your eyes for a second. Seriously, just for a moment. I want you to imagine a sound.
And we don't mean a chaotic noise, not the hum of traffic or, the static of a radio.
No, imagine a rhythm. A steady, mechanical, rhythmic ticking, like
Yeah.
a clock, but on a scale so massive it encompasses entire galaxies. Tick-tock, tick-tock.
The soundscape of the cosmic clocks.
Exactly. It's the sound of a machine running, a vast, intricate, universal machine. And we, you, me, everyone listening, we are standing right in the middle of the gears.
Yeah.
Giant pendulums swinging in the dark, cogs grinding against each other with the absolute force of gravity. Now, here's the setup for our deep dive today. If you look at this machine, this universe we live in, you can see it in two very different ways.
Right.
And those two ways of seeing are going to be the tension at the heart of everything we talk about for the next hour or so.
Because the machine itself doesn't change. The physics are the physics. The history is the history.
Oh.
But the observer changes everything.
Precisely. On one hand, you have the empiricist. This is the person grounded in the immediate sensory experience of the world. They look at the machine, and they don't see the grand design or the long game.
Right. They see what the gears are crushing right now.
Exactly.
They see the friction. They see the tragedy. The source material for this deep dive actually calls this perspective the faun in the forest.
Which is a gut-wrenching image that we're going to unpack in a minute. But essentially, it's the raw, visceral reality of pain. When you look through this empirical lens, the universe doesn't look like a clock. It looks like a slaughterhouse.
But then you have the rationalist. This perspective steps back, way, way back. It looks at the systemic architecture.
Mm-hmm.
It's not looking at the immediate moment of the crush, but at the mechanism itself. It asks, why is the machine built this way? What is it producing?
And that brings us to the title of today's deep dive, the friction engine.
It's a really powerful image, an engine that runs entirely on friction.
And it frames the central conflict we are unpacking today. It's basically the heavyweight championship of theological philosophy. In this corner, the problem of evil. And in the opposing corner, the existence of a loving God, specifically the concept of Al-Wadud.
The core question we're wrestling with is this. Is the universe a cruel accident of pitiless indifference, as Richard Dawkins might say? Or is it a rigorous classroom where struggle, that friction, is actually the operating system for evolution?
Our mission today is to take a journey. We're going to move from what the source calls temporal myopia, basically being nearsighted by pain, to the awe-inspiring logic of an all-wise designer. We are looking at a stack of research today, specifically focusing on the work Al-Wadud, the Quranic response to suffering and atheism by J.R. Ahmed.
And just a heads up, guys, isn't going to be a light skim. We're going deep into logic, linguistics, and some pretty heavy philosophy. We're going to be talking about the crunch of footsteps on the uphill road and the overlapping whispers of the sea of empirical data.
So let's start with the indictment, the prosecution's opening statement, if you will. Because if we're being honest, the argument against God based on suffering is, well, it's strong, it's highly intuitive.
It is the symphony of screams. And in philosophy, this is often formalized as the inconsistent tetrad. This comes from the philosopher J.L. Mackie.
Okay, let's unhack this tetrad. It sounds like a geometry problem, but it's actually a logic trap. It's four statements that seemingly cannot all be true at the same time.
Right. So, proposition 1, God is omnipotent, all-powerful. He can do anything.
Okay.
Proposition 2, God is omniscient, all-knowing. He knows everything that is happening everywhere.
I got it.
Proposition 3, God is wholly good, completely benevolent.
Makes total sense.
And proposition 4, evil exists.
And the trap snaps shut.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The atheist argument is that these four cannot logically coexist. It's a puzzle. If God knows about the suffering, which is the omniscient part, and has the power to stop it, the omnipotent part, but he doesn't do it, then he must not be wholly good. He must be indifferent or even cruel.
Or, if he wants to stop it because he is good but he can't, then he's not omnipotent, he's weak.
Exactly. If he allows it, he is either impotent, unaware, or malevolent. That's the logical problem. It's a deductive argument meant to prove a hard contradiction. But the source material highlights that the emotional anchor of this argument is even more powerful than the logic. This brings us back to William Rowe's evidential problem of evil.
The fawn.
The fawn. So Rowe asks us to imagine a fawn trapped in a forest fire. It's deep in the woods. It's nowhere near a village. No humans see it. It suffers in terrible agony for days before finally dying alone.
And that's the kicker. No humans see it.
Why is that detail so important to you?
Well, because usually when we talk about suffering, we say things like, oh, it taught me a lesson or it made me stronger. But if no one saw the fawn, it didn't teach anyone a lesson, it didn't
Huh?
build anyone's character, it was just suffering in a vacuum.
Yes, exactly. Rowe calls this gratuitous suffering. It serves no apparent moral purpose whatsoever. It seems to be suffering purely for the sake of suffering. And for the empiricist, this is the smoking gun. It's the strongest evidence against a loving architect. If you walked past a fawn burning and you had a bucket of water, you'd throw it.
In a heartbeat, I mean, I think anyone would.
So, if God is watching, he's omniscient, and he has the bucket, he's omnipotent, and he doesn't throw the water, the argument implies he is less moral than you are.
Oof, that lands. That really lands hard. It paints God as this ultimate bystander to tragedy.
And it's not just distinct events like fires or natural disasters. The sources bring up the biological indictment. This is where Charles Darwin and Richard Dawkins come into the picture. They looked at the machinery of nature itself.
Right, because nature isn't exactly a Disney movie.
Far from it. Darwin struggled mightily with this. He looked at the ectomonidae wasp.
Ugh, I wish I hadn't looked this up before the show. It's absolute nightmare fuel.
It is incredibly vivid. This wasp doesn't just kill its prey. It paralyzes a caterpillar, lays its eggs inside the living body, and when the larvae hatch, they eat the caterpillar from the inside out.
Just awful.
And here's the design part. They carefully avoid the vital organs so the caterpillar stays alive and the meat stays fresh for as long as possible.
That is just, it's meticulous cruelty.
Darwin actually wrote what a book a devil's chaplain might write on the clumsy, wasteful, blundering, low, and horribly cruel works of nature.
And Dawkins took that baton and ran a marathon with it.
He really did. He said the universe has exactly the properties we should expect if there is, at bottom, no design, no purpose, no evil, no good, nothing but pitiless indifference.
Pitiless indifference. Wow. So that's the landscape. From the empiricist's view, the universe is a slaughterhouse. It looks like a place where pain is random, cruel, and completely baked into the system. The verdict is guilty. There is no loving God.
That is the indictment. And if we start there, the case is closed. The empiricist wins the debate. But this deep dive is about the rebuttal. And the rebuttal starts by challenging the very dictionary we're using, specifically the definition of the word love.
Right. Because when the atheist says a loving God wouldn't allow this, they are using a highly specific definition of love. They are projecting a human, almost modern definition onto a divine being.
They are. The source calls this the anthropocentric error. The atheist argument equates love with immediate comfort. They are essentially viewing God as a high-end nursery administrator.
A nursery administrator. I love that image, but break it down for us.
Think about a nursery. What is the entire job of the administrator? To make sure the kids are soft, fed, entertained, and completely safe. If a kid scrapes a knee, the administrator has failed. If a kid is crying, the administrator rushes in to immediately fix it.
Right. The goal is zero discomfort.
But is that what love is? Even in human terms.
I see where you're going with this.
If a surgeon cuts you open to remove a tumor, that causes immense pain. Immediate comfort is totally destroyed. You wake up in agony. But is the surgeon unloving?
No, because the pain is absolutely necessary for a greater good. The surgeon is actually saving your life.
Exactly. So the source points us to Quran 2.216, which says, "It may be that you dislike a thing while it is good for you." This is the fallacy of instant comfort. But let's go deeper here. The source introduces a specific divine name in this context, Al-Wadud.
Al-Wadud. Now, I've heard this translated as the loving, but our deep dive material says there's a linguistic nuance here that changes everything about how we understand it.
This is fascinating linguistics. In Arabic, you have hub and you have wud. Hub is generally understood as an internal feeling. It's the emotion of love. It's what you feel in your chest.
Okay, like I love pizza or I love my cat.
Right. But wud, which is the root of al-wadud, is different.
Yeah.
It implies active goodwill. It is affection demonstrated through deeds. It's not just a feeling. It's a systematic commitment to the beloved.
So it's not just feeling warm and fuzzy, it's actively doing something for their benefit.
Correct. But here is the massive shift. Al-Wadud is not a sentimental shield against pain. It is a systemic law of development.
Whoa. Okay, unpack that. A systemic law of development. That sounds way less like a Valentine's card and a lot more like physics.
Think of the architect's love. Imagine an architect designing a massive skyscraper. He wants the people inside to be safe and to reach the sky, but to do that, he has to respect the laws of physics, gravity, tension, compression.
Right. If he ignores gravity, the building falls.
Now imagine the builder is lifting a heavy steel beam and his muscles are burning. He's in serious pain. If the architect loves the builder so much that he says, oh, I can't stand to see you struggle, let me just turn off gravity for a minute, what happens?
The beam floats, but so does the building. The structural integrity completely collapses.
Exactly. True love, in the architectural sense, is providing the scaffolding and the laws of consequence that allow the building to stand in the first place. The love is in the reliability of the system. If gravity works sometimes and not others, we literally couldn't build anything.
So the shift is moving from a god of magic who is expected to suspend the rules every single time we hurt to a god of system who provides the laws for us to actually grow.
Precisely. The rationalist argues that Al-Wadud isn't about stopping the friction, it's about designing the engine where friction produces motion.
Okay, the friction engine. Let's look at the mechanics of this engine. If suffering isn't a glitch in the matrix, what is it doing? What are the gears actually turning? The source material breaks this down into 4 lenses of purpose.
Right. The source posits that suffering is a dynamic catalyst. Lens number 1 is the crucible, which is testing and unveiling.
This is the idea of life as a rigorous examination.
Yes, referencing Quran 67.2, he who created death and life to test you. But let's stick with an engineering analogy, stress testing.
Like when they pile massive weights on a bridge until it snaps.
Exactly. You cannot know the tensile strength of steel by just looking at it. You have to apply pressure. You have to actively try to bend it.
And how does that apply in human terms?
Hardship distinguishes sincere faith from a hollow verbal show. It unveils what is actually inside you. Everyone is patient when things are going their way. Everyone is generous when they just got a huge bonus.
True. It's very easy to be good when life is easy.
But who are you when you lose your job? Who are you when you get the terrifying diagnosis? The pressure converts potential virtue into actual virtue. Without the friction, your character is just a hypothesis. The test makes it real.
Okay, so that's internal. That's about me proving who I am to myself. What about the external effect? Lens number 2 is the empathy catalyst.
This one is powerful. Pain is a social accelerant. The suffering of one person is designed to ignite the compassion of another.
The source references Surah Al-Balad here, the ascent, or the Al-Aqaba.
Yes. The Quran defines the ascent, the difficult uphill path to God, not as sitting alone in a cave meditating, but as feeding the hungry and freeing the slave.
Wait, I see the connection. You can't have the virtue of feeding the hungry if there's literally no hunger.
Exactly. Without the problem of hunger, the virtue of charity cannot exist. Without the problem of bondage, the virtue of liberation cannot exist.
So the suffering creates the necessary opportunity for the highest forms of human connection to even manifest.
It's a closed loop. The pain of the few solicits the moral elevation of the many. If the world was perfect, we would all be isolated islands of content. We wouldn't need each other at all.
Suffering forces us to build bridges.
Bridges of empathy, bridges of aid. It binds the human family together in a way that absolute comfort never ever could.
That leads right into lens number 3, which I think is my favorite because it sounds so counterintuitive. The gymnasium, or soul building.
This is where we get into a really cool neuroevolutionary analysis. The verse is Quran 94.56. With hardship comes ease.
Usually people interpret that as, after hardship, eventually things get better. Like, hang in there, the weekend is coming.
But the source argues for a simultaneous causal relationship. Hardship, or use, triggers the intellect to find ease, which is use. Think about human evolution. Why did we discover fire?
Because we were freezing cold.
Exactly. The hardship of cold triggered the intellect to find the ease of warmth. Why did we invent the wheel?
Because carrying heavy stuff on our backs, the hardship just sucked.
Precisely. Distance led to the wheel. Infection led to antibiotics. The ease is not just relief. It is the intellectual advancement born straight from the friction of limitation.
So you're saying our entire civilization, our technology, our medicine, our science is basically just scar tissue?
In a way, yes.
Mm-hmm.
It is the brilliant response to friction. If humans were perfectly comfortable sitting in a garden with 72-degree weather and food dropping directly into our mouths,
We'd be stupid.
we would be totally stagnant. We would be intellectually atrophied. There would be no reason to solve a puzzle if there were no puzzles. The friction is the engine of our intelligence.
That's a wild thought, that the things we are most proud of as a species, our ingenuity, only exist because we suffered.
We are built in the gymnasium of adversity. The heavy lifting builds the muscle.
Okay, but there's a snag in the gears here. What about the person who suffers and doesn't get the breakthrough? The person who dies in the cold before fire is invented? Or the fawn? For them, it's just total loss. That brings us to lens number 4, deferred justice, or the cosmic audit.
This is the failsafe. the logical necessity of the afterlife. The Quran describes a closed-loop system.
The Adam's weight argument.
Quran 99.7 to 8. Whoever does an atom's weight of good will see it. This directly refutes the sunk cost fallacy.
What's the sunk cost fallacy in this specific context?
Atheism views suffering as a sunk cost. It's energy lost to the void. If you suffer and die, that pain was for nothing. It's just gone. A net loss on the spreadsheet.
Which is incredibly depressing.
The Quran views it as a deferred asset or an investment. It's not lost. It's securely transferred.
It's the math of infinity.
Right. If you have finite pain, even 80 brutal years of it, but you divide it by infinite bliss in the afterlife, the ratio of suffering approaches zero.
That's cold comfort to someone in pain right now, though. Like, don't worry, you'll get paid later.
Emotionally, yes.
Yeah.
It is extremely hard to hear. But logically,
Yeah.
it holds water perfectly. If the system is infinite, then the compensation is mathematically guaranteed to outweigh the cost. The cosmic audit ensures that absolutely no pain is wasted.
So we have these four lenses, the crucible, the empathy catalyst, the gymnasium, and deferred justice. Together, they form the mechanics of the friction engine.
But there is always but even with these lenses, we sometimes hit a massive wall.
We do. We look at something, a terrible tragedy, a tsunami wiping out an entire village, a genocide, and we just can't make the gears fit. We can't see the lesson. We can't see the growth. It just looks like pure chaos.
And this is exactly where we fall into the epistemic trap.
Part 4 of our deep dive, the trap of temporal myopia.
The source material takes us to a really fascinating story in Surah Al-Kahf, the story of Moses and El-Kar, the endowed servant.
I love this story. It's basically a buddy cop movie where one cop, Moses, thinks he knows the law, and the other cop, Kidder, is operating on a completely different level of clearance.
It's a masterclass tutorial on the severe limits of human perception. So you have Moses. In this allegory, he represents empirical reason. He represents the law, the empiricist. He judges things by how they appear on the surface.
And he's traveling to meet this wise servant, and the symbol for their meeting point is the junction of the two seas.
The junction of the two seas. This visual is critical. Imagine two vast bodies of water meeting. One is the sea of empirical data. This is what we can see, touch, measure, and logically deduce. The other is the sea of ultimate reality, God's wisdom, the back-end code of the universe.
And in the story, they have a salted fish for lunch, and they mysteriously lose it.
The fish, it comes back to life and slips into the sea. The source interprets the fish as acquired knowledge or data.
Okay, tracking with you.
The moment the fish slips away represents the exact moment empirical data fails. It marks the boundary. Moses says, I have suffered fatigue. He's tired. His human logic has run out. That is where the higher wisdom begins.
So he meets Al-Kir, the endowed servant, and Al-Kir agrees to teach him, but with one major condition. Don't ask questions until I explain.
And then Al-Kir proceeds to commit 3 acts that, to the empirical mind, look like absolute atrocities.
Let's walk through them. Atrocity number 1. They get a free ride on a boat from some poor fishermen. Really nice guys. And what does Al-Kir do? He scuttles the ship. He grabs an adze and smashes a huge hole in the hull.
Moses completely loses it. These people helped us. This is vandalism. You're drowning them. It looks like pure, unadulterated ingratitude.
It looks like evil.
But what was the reality? The sea of ultimate reality revealed that there was a tyrant king downstream seizing every single good ship by force. By damaging the boat, Al-Kir made it imperfect.
So when the king's soldiers saw it, they saw the hole and said, we don't want this junk.
Exactly. He saved their entire livelihood by damaging their property. It was a profound act of mercy, disguised as a disaster. Short-term pain, long-term gain.
But Moses couldn't see the king. He only saw the hole in the boat.
Exactly. Next, the hardest one. Atrocity number 2. Al-Kir kills a young boy.
This one is incredibly tough. To the empiricist, this is murder. Plain and simple. The ultimate evil.
To Moses, it is murder. He is outraged. But Al-Kir explains the hidden timeline. He says that this boy, had he lived, was destined to oppress his righteous parents with severe rebellion and disbelief.
So he prevented a future spiritual crime.
He preserved the boy's innocence because he died before actually committing the sins, and he saved the parents' faith. He says God intended to exchange him for a child, better in purity and nearer to mercy.
It's basically a Minority Report situation, pre-crime, but it highlights that God sees the timeline we simply cannot see.
And finally, atrocity number 3. They go to a town that outright refuses to feed them. Terrible hospitality. These people are jerks. But Al-Kir finds a crumbling wall and repairs it for free. He spends hours fixing it.
Moses is like, come on, we are starving here. We could have charged them for this labor.
It looks like complete foolishness, helping
True.
your enemies. But the reality, there was a treasure buried beneath that wall for 2 orphan boys. Their father was a righteous man. If the wall fell now, the greedy townspeople would see the gold and steal it immediately.
So he repaired the wall to hide the treasure until the orphans were strong enough to claim it for themselves.
In every single case, Moses the empiricist was completely wrong.
He was wrong because he was judging the full film by a 10-second trailer.
Exactly. He saw the scuttling but missed the king. He saw the killing but missed the corruption. He saw the repair but missed the treasure.
This is what the source calls the no hidden reasons fallacy.
The no hidden reasons fallacy. It's the arrogant assumption that just because I personally can't see the reason means there is no reason.
It's like, imagine a bacteria on a surgeon's scalpel.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
The bacteria is just hanging out, living its life, and suddenly the scalpel slices into skin. The bacteria screams, "This is violence. This is random destruction."
Because the bacteria doesn't know what a tumor is. It doesn't know what healing is. It just sees its immediate world being totally disrupted.
We are the bacteria.
In the grand scheme of the cosmos, yes, we are incredibly finite beings trying to audit an infinite mind. We are judging a 14-billion-year-old process from a tiny 70-year window.
That brings us to part 5, because while the intellect can accept the surgeon analogy, the heart really struggles with the innocent.
The suffering of children. This is the hardest question of all.
It really is. Rose Fawn applied to human beings. If a baby dies, they didn't learn a lesson, they didn't grow in the gymnasium, they didn't pass a crucible test. It feels wrong.
The source material addresses this head-on with the profound concept of the fitra.
The fitra is the primordial nature or internal compass, right?
Yes. The first digging. The source makes a really fascinating point here. Our very outrage at child suffering is actually proof of God.
Wait, how does that work? Atheists use that exact outrage as proof against God.
Think about it deeply. If the universe is just random atoms banging together, pitiless indifference, then a child dying is just biology doing biology, cells failing. A lion eating a gazelle isn't evil, it's just lunch. Why do we feel a profound sense of moral violation when a human child suffers? Why do we feel it is objectively wrong?
Because we have a standard of right and wrong built into us.
Exactly. That internal compass detecting a violation of objective justice. That is the fitra. That is the direct connection to the divine. We are outraged because we know deep down that this is not how it's supposed to be. If we were just evolved animals, we might feel sad, but we wouldn't feel violated.
Okay, so our outrage proves we are moral beings created by a moral being. But that doesn't fix the kid's pain. It doesn't heal the cancer.
No, it doesn't heal it in the moment.
Okay.
But the zero debt and overcompensation principle does address the ultimate justice of it.
Break that down for us.
First, zero debt. Children have absolutely no sin. In the Quranic worldview, no bearer of burdens shall bear the burden of another. They stand before God with a completely clean ledger.
Okay.
Second, the principle of overcompensation. In the Quranic worldview, evil is repaid 1-to-1. But good, and here is the absolute key, unearned suffering counts as a credit here, is repaid exponentially, 10 times, 700 times, or infinite.
So the suffering of the innocent is not a loss on the cosmic ledger. It's a massive deposit.
The source argues that for the innocent, suffering is a rapid transition to a state of surplus bliss. It's a momentary squeeze that results in an eternal, infinite expansion.
And there's a crucial note here about family reunion.
Yes, Quran 52.21. The explicit promise that bonds are reknit in the afterlife. The separation is only temporary.
But what about the parents, the ones left behind in the silent nursery right now?
This is where we completely redefine cyber patience.
Usually people think cyber means just sitting there and taking it, grin and bear it. God wills it, so I guess I'll just sit on the couch and cry.
The source rejects that completely. It calls saber organized resistance.
I really like that phrase, organized resistance.
Look at human history. High infant mortality was a source of massive suffering for thousands of years. Did religious people just sit there and say, oh, well, God's will?
No, they built hospitals.
Exactly. The suffering acted as a node. It galvanized the entire community. It pushed humanity to invent vaccines, modern sanitation, the entire field of pediatrics.
So suffering of the innocent acted as the empathy catalyst that drove the friction engine of progress.
Exactly. It galvanized the community to act. The suffering wasn't pointless. It was the extremely high-octane fuel that drove medical progress. We as a species decided to actively fight the suffering, and in fighting it, we grew exponentially.
It's a tough pill to swallow, but I genuinely see the logic. It reframes the pain not as a dead end, but as a severe call to action.
Precisely.
But let's play the what-if game for a minute. Part 6 of our deep dive. What if the atheist actually got their wish?
The alternative. The perfect, stagnant world.
Let's say God intervenes constantly. He stops the fawn from burning. He stops the bacteria from infecting the child. He stops the tyrant king every time. He stops every single thing that hurts.
What is the actual cost of that world?
Well, no pain. Sounds pretty good on paper.
But to achieve that, the source argues you have to abolish 3 fundamental things. First, you have to abolish free will.
Explain that one.
If God has to stop all suffering, he has to stop every single human action that causes suffering. He has to forcibly stop the hand raised in anger. He has to stop the tongue about to lie. He has to literally stop the greedy thought before it forms.
We would be puppets, like Stepford wives.
Exactly. You cannot have free moral agents in a world guaranteed to be painless. You have to choose freedom, which inevitably includes the risk of evil, or puppethood, which is perfectly safe but completely meaningless.
Number 2,
Abolish natural law.
the science argument.
Gravity causes rocks to fall. If a rock falls on your foot, it hurts. For a completely painless world, God would have to turn the rock into a marshmallow the exact second it touched you.
So physics would be totally random.
Predictability would completely vanish. Science would be impossible. You couldn't build a house if gravity worked differently every Tuesday, depending on who was standing under a beam. A loving God provides a stable stage, natural law, even if that stability sometimes hurts us.
And number 3,
Abolish growth. This is the gymnasium argument again. Without the resistance of the gym, muscles atrophy. Without the puzzle of disease, intellect stagnates.
we'd be blob people. Happy, safe, totally useless blobs.
The verdict of the source material is exceptionally clear. A perfect world, in the sense of being painless, is a static cage. The friction engine is absolutely necessary for the production of virtue, science, and character.
And the source quotes Quran 90.4 right here. We created man in kabod.
Kabod, toil, struggle. Struggle isn't a bug in the software, it's the operating system.
So we've looked at the indictment, the rebuttal, the mechanics, the trap, and the alternative. Where does this leave us at the end of the day?
It leads us to the outro, and a massive shift in how we actually argue. We move from deduction to abduction.
Translation for the non-philosophers, please.
The atheist starts with a deductive argument. Evil exists, therefore God mathematically cannot exist. It tries to prove a hard contradiction. But we've shown that if there is any valid reason for suffering, soul building, free will, the afterlife, the contradiction completely falls apart.
So the ironclad proof is gone.
Now we are left with abduction, inference to the best explanation. We have to look at the vast sea of data in the universe and ask which story fits better.
Option A, a random universe. Pitiless indifference. But it accidentally produced beings, us, who are obsessed with justice. It accidentally produced a Phaedra that screams when a child dies. It accidentally produced a universe fine-tuned for life.
That feels really disjointed. It explains the pain, sure, but it completely fails to explain the beauty or the deep moral instinct.
Option B, a designed universe. A friction engine, where the outrage we feel is a signal from the designer himself. Where the struggle we face is the engine of our own evolution.
Where the low note of suffering is part of a much larger symphony.
The cosmic clock again.
If the universe is a symphony, suffering is the low note. If you isolate the low note, it sounds dark, sad, maybe even wrong.
But if you hear it in the context of the whole concerto,
it gives the masterpiece its incredible depth. It provides the contrast that makes the high notes soar.
And our job, as the listener in all of this.
Our job is rational humility. It is the posture of Moses after he left Al-Kir. He didn't know everything, but he knew enough to know that he didn't know everything.
I acknowledge my data set is limited.
Exactly. And finally, the source leaves us with the powerful image of the uphill road. Al-Aqaba.
The steep path.
The universe isn't broken. It's under construction. And so are we. The friction is the proof of the engine.
That is a lot to process. But it definitely changes how I look at the gears turning around us. I want to leave everyone with a final thought to mull over. What if the pain you're feeling right now, the specific friction in your life today, is the exact resistance required to spark the next necessary phase of your own evolution?
It shifts the question from, why is this happening to me, to what is this trying to build in me?
And that is a question worth asking. That's our deep dive for today. Thanks for listening to The Engine Run.
Keep climbing the uphill road.
See you next time.